the price over 1 year had gone up by 39%. I don't know any wages that go up by 39%, and the pensions don't go up by 39%, and so forth. And you can ask your viewers, they can all check with their parents who are pensioners or so. All of them suffer at the moment. The problem of inflation, it erodes the purchasing power of ordinary people. It enriches rich people. It's unusual. I've been through so many bear markets, starting with 1970 to the end of the 69-70 bear market. The financial markets will move according to what central banks will do to a large extent, but also they will move according to fundamentals in the world. I think if I look at the whole world in terms of economic activity, we have not recovered to the peak that occurred in 2018, 2019. We had recovery moves, but let's say if you look at travel statistics, international travel statistics, in most countries, we're still down very substantially. And if you look at valuations, the valuations are still very high. They have come down somewhat. I have to point this out because, as you know, the S&P is down 22% or 23% this year, and the Nasdaq is down over 30%. And the European markets, if we measure them in US dollars, they're all down around 30-35% and so forth. And the emerging markets, they have been in bear markets for several years now. Now we also have to look at individual sectors, and some sectors have performed better than others. But basically what has happened is liquidity in the world, global money supply has been contracting. It's still at a very high level, but it's been contracting. And when this happens, asset prices tend to go down. And we had this tightening mode in the world among central banks. The central banks were sleeping essentially for 12 years between 2009 and 2021. And even in 21, a year ago, they all said, oh, inflation is transitory. Now, we may have to look at exactly, did they do it by, let's say, did they do it intentionally, or were they so dumb? You know, this is two different things, because if you look at the action of politicians today, frequently you ask yourself, do these characters actually want to destroy the economy, or are they simply so ignorant that they take measures that are negative for the economy? Then there is a question of corporate earnings. In some emerging economies, corporate earnings have come down, and in some sectors they have come down. But say for the S&P, the estimates by our brilliant analysts are still up for the year, and they're up for 2023. So I ask myself, from my observations about economic activity around the world, which is down, there's no question about this, can the S&P earnings still be up this year and next year, when in fact this year the earnings have already started to decline, but the analysts haven't adjusted yet? And when I see the results of disappointing earnings, say in the case of Nvidia or in the case of FedEx, and stocks tumble to new lows, then I think that this will be a factor that will weigh on the markets going forward when the earnings disappoint. And what is not considered sufficiently is the demand destructions, the destruction that is taking place, A, from falling asset prices. you know, the last few years, we had this money illusion. Everybody got richer who owned real estate, who owned collectibles, art, and stocks, bonds, and so forth, because everything was going up. Now everything is going down. And in concert, some assets are going down more than others. But it's unusual. I've been through so many bear markets, starting with 1970 to the end of the 69-70 bear market, 73, 74, 81, 82, and so forth. Normally, when markets went down, bonds rallied, treasury bonds rallied, not necessarily junk bonds, but treasury bonds rallied. That was also the case in the Great Depression. But this year, you look at the TLT, this is the long-term treasury ETF. The symbol is TLT. It's down from 18 months ago, from 170 to now below 100. In Austria, the long-term bond is down more than 50%. So there was no place to hide for asset holders. And whereas a very wise hedge fund manager actually runs the largest hedge fund in the world, at the end of 2021, wrote, "Cash is trash." Now he's changed his tune. His tune. So you understand, this has been a brutal decline in asset prices, which will impact the consumption of many people, because many people lived from asset price increases. Number two, someone out of Germany just sent me a video an hour ago, and it shows an analyst. He took a basket of goods in the supermarkets, from butter, cheese, and so forth, all kinds of items, and soap, and whatever the household needs for the daily life. Altogether, the price over 1 year had gone up by 39%. I don't know any wages that go up by 39%, and the pensions don't go up by 39%, and so forth and so on. And so the consumption is impaired, is shrinking, because people don't have the money. Look, I live in the north of Thailand, in Chiang Mai. Thailand is famous for the tourism among young people and elderly people, but it is also famous as a retirement country. It's consistently voted as one of the most pleasant countries to retire and to live, because the price level is reasonable and so forth. My friend, he owns a restaurant. The restaurant is a French restaurant that is bistro style. It appeals to everyone. It's simple. Outside you can smoke, and inside there's no smoking and so forth. I can observe that the pensioners, starting around the 25th of the month, frequent that restaurant much less than when they get the pension. They get the pensions usually around the 5th to 10th of the month from Germany, Switzerland, and so forth and so on. So then they have some purchasing power, but not the same as before, because their cost of living has also gone up. But the pensions from Germany, Switzerland, and so forth, in Switzerland, they haven't gone up. I don't live from my pension because I'm a working man. But I can tell you, you can ask your viewers, they can all check with their parents who are pensioners or so. All of them suffer at the moment, all of them. And so I think the corporate earnings will begin to disappoint massively. And how do we get out of it? Well, as you said before, there's no easy answer, because there are two things essentially the authorities can do. Well, there are many things they can do, and I will give you a solution. One of the things they can do is they could stop increasing interest rates, as some people are calling for, including the UN. That is the best joke I ever heard, that the UN is calling for central banks to stop increasing interest rates. What is funny about this is it coincides with the UN having concluded kind of a joint venture with the World Economic Forum, as if the World Economic Forum was ever interested in the fate and in the prosperity of the small guy in the world. It's a complete joke. But anyway, that they can do, they can stop increasing interest rates. Say, in the Western world, inflation is running at, say, between 7 and 15%, depending on the household and depending on how many children you have and on your eating habits and so forth and so on. But interest rates are still, say, in the US at 3%, and in Europe, they're next to zero. In Switzerland, they're at zero. If they don't increase interest rates, then inflation may slow down temporary, for 6 months or 1 year, but it will then go up again. And so you'll get more and more inflation and less purchasing power. And this is the problem of inflation. It erodes the purchasing power of ordinary people. It enriches rich people. And you will get a mess, but maybe later on. Or they keep on increasing interest rates until inflation really slows down, but they have to maintain interest rates at a fairly high level for a while. And then there will be pain, especially given the fact we have an entire generation of people, they grew up and started working and investing and buying a home in an environment of artificially low interest rates. Since 2009, interest rates in the Western world have been far below of what they should have been. But this has happened because wokeness, the woke culture, has also invaded economics. And for a while, a great fashion was to talk about the modern monetary theory. And a great deal of academics, they sort of endorsed this nonsense. I call it bullshit, because throughout history, governments have gone bust when their debts became overly burdensome. So to claim that the government can borrow endless money is, of course, total nonsense. But this was endorsed, and the worst part of it, the investment community, the fund manager, the strategists, the analysts, they all applauded. Because these people in the financial sector, including myself, but the people in the financial sector, they benefit from rising asset prices. Their fees go up, the performance fees go up, so they all applaud. They applaud idiots who are sitting in central banks, who do these things. And at the end, when it's proven that these idiots in central banks, these morons, are completely wrong, they give them a Nobel Prize in economics. Like today, Mr. Ben Bernanke. This is the best joke I've heard in a long